Today, in this video, I will be replacing brake rotors, brake pads, and possible hardware kit on a 2009 Hyundai Elantra. Jack up the vehicle, don't forget your safety stand, and make sure your parking brake is on so the rear wheels are locked up to keep the car from moving. I'm going to remove the front tire. This happens to be the right side. Both sides are the same for this job. There's two screws in the rotor. I'm going to take those out first using my impact screwdriver. The wheel is turned to the left, giving me easy access to the back of the caliper. I'm going to go ahead and collapse the piston, or push the piston back into the caliper by using just a simple screwdriver against the rotor and the outside edge of the caliper here. Get that piston all the way back, as far as it will go. Check your slides. They're nice and loose, moving. These are your slide pins right here. Everything's moving the way it should. That is good. Now we're going to remove these two bolts holding the caliper in place. Now we'll just get this caliper off. Take a quick look at your caliper. Make sure the piston isn't leaking any brake fluid in that area and the seals are still intact. So I'm going to go ahead and just place it out of the way. Now I'm going to take my 1/2-inch pry bar with a flex and a 17mm socket. I want to get the back of these bolts. The two bolts, one here and one here, holding this bracket on. And these are probably going to be hard to get out because this is all rusted in there. Oh. Whew. Yeah. Wow. Boy, that's tight. All right. Now I'm going to use my impact to get those completely out. And now take out the top one. Now we take off the pads. Pretty much pop them off. Caliper bracket comes off. Rotor popped right off. I'm actually surprised. Like I always do, I'm gonna clean up this hub as best as I can. The hardware kit that I actually received from the parts store is the wrong one, and this one's in decent shape, so I'm just going to reuse it. I am not taking another trip to the store to get the hardware kit. And now that this is all cleaned up, we're good to go. Before I put this bracket back on, I like to pop off the caliper slide pins, which are these. Check them real quick, do a visual inspection. These look really good. I am going to grease them up just a little bit and then put them back in. Doesn't take a whole lot of grease, just a little bit on there, and we're good. If you put too much, you're gonna have issues with the pin fitting back in like it's supposed to. Now the reason I'm doing these brakes is because my daughter was complaining. She drives the car now about the brakes sound like they need to be redone. So with all this rust buildup, I could see why it would be making that noise. If you watch my video on the rear brakes on this, the rear brakes were worse than the fronts, but they were making a lot of noise too. But now these are making noise, so I just figured I'd change them up instead of messing around with them. On the hardware, with the brake pads will actually be riding on, I'm just going to throw a little bit of grease on there. Just doing it now because it's just easier to do while it's off the car and you can see things a little better. Not a whole lot of grease, because what happens with grease on brakes is it attracts a lot of dirt, so you don't want to go crazy with the grease, just a little bit. Now before we can put that bracket on, we have to get the rotor on. Now just to show you, I am using ceramic brake pads, which is what I use on all my vehicles. They last longer, less dust, and they don't make anywhere near the noise of metallic pads. The rotor goes on, and those two screws go back in. And then I'll just tap it just to tighten them up a little bit. Going smoothly. Now we can put the caliper bracket back on. Okay, get your bolt started by hand. And then we tighten everything down. Now the pads go in, the sensor goes on the back side. Now we got to tilt these pads in, hit those two tabs on the hardware, push that down, and then it should go right in. These two tabs here, those are ones we're going to push down on with the pad, and then line it up and push it in. Beautiful. Caliper goes back on. Should fit right over everything. You might have to push your slide pins in a little bit. I'm going to put the bolts back in. Get those started, make sure they're started. You do not want to cross thread any bolts. It's like a nightmare if you do that. Now we just tighten this up. Little trick, I'm going to put some grease on this hub right here. What I'm doing is I'm actually changing the rims and tires out and putting the aluminum rims on. And the difference between the aluminum and the steel, they tend to corrode here and cause the tire to be difficult to take off. So what I like to do, and it helps, is I'll put a light coat of grease on this hub right here where it goes into the rim. Very light coat. There's actually a story behind these tires. A fellow named Mark that I was working with at the time gave me these rims and tires at no cost. I am now putting them on this car because the old tires, even though they got some meat left on the thread, they're all dry rotted. These are an upgrade. They're aluminum rims, Hyundai aluminum rims, and these are 16-inch tires versus the old ones are 15s. It's actually an option with these cars when you buy them. So I wanted to say, Mark, if you're watching this, thank you very much for the tires, man. I appreciate that. And I'm also putting new lug nuts on all tires on this vehicle because the old lug nuts, they were rusted out, and I ended up painting them orange because that's all I had at the time. So I cleaned up the old lug nuts and painted them, and now they're just so far gone, it's not even worth messing with. So I got all new lug nuts for this vehicle. And that's it. I mean, my kid drives this, and I want to make sure it's good to go with no issues for her, and I want her to be safe with it, or as safe as possible. That's why I don't mind spending the money to do some of this work and know that she's safe on the road. Remove the safety stand, drop the car down. We are good. And that's all there is to the brakes. Both sides is the same way. Last thing you want to do is open up the hood, check the master cylinder, make sure you have enough fluid in there, or it's at the level it should be, and then get in the vehicle and pump the brake a few times until you get a firm brake pedal. Once you get a firm brake pedal, you're good to go. Car's ready to be driven. So take it easy on the brakes for about 200 to 300 miles while the surfaces wear into each other. And then you're all set. You all, thank you very much for being here with me today. I do appreciate it. Don't forget, subscribe, share my videos on your favorite social media site, like or dislike the video, whatever you want to do, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos when they come up. You all, God bless. Bye-bye.